We welcome you to another Sunday School lesson. Sunday School is a blessing and gift from God. Are we seeking to grow in articulating heartfelt praise and gratefulness to God? David is an example to us of a man who sought to grow in worship, not settle down in a safe zone. David had very significant accomplishments to praise and thank God. He defeated his enemies and was able to unite his divided kingdom. He is now ready to end the obscurity of the ark, which had been a great grievance to Israel as the insults and defeat at the hands of the Philistines. David now felt the need to bring the Ark of the Covenant to the city of David, so that it would be near him, and also be an ornament and strength to his new capital city. Our lesson begins after the 20 years that the Ark of the Covenant was in the house of Abinadab. Our first verse says David again brought together all the able young men of Israel, 30,000. David had his men together when they conquered Jerusalem, which was occupied by the Jebusites, and when they defeated the Philistines. Now David again assembled 30,000 of the chosen men of Israel, in case they had to fight to retrieve the Ark of the Covenant. Verse 2 says, he and all his men went to Baalah in Judah to bring up from there the Ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherubim on the ark. The Ark of God had been kept in the home of Abinadab for the previous 20 years. Accompanied by all the people with him, David went to Baalah to get the Ark of the Covenant. The verse describes God enthroned between the cherubims in the ark. The ark was a sacred portable chest which contained the 2 stone tables with the 10 commandments, the golden pot of manna, and Aaron's rod. It had the mercy seat and cherubim where God told Moses that he would meet with him whenever he had any messages. Verse 3 says, they set the ark of God on a new cart and brought it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the new cart. David and his men set the ark on a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab. This was David's first mistake. God commanded that whenever the ark of God was moved, only the Kohathites from the tribe of Levi could carry it on their shoulders, and using the poles that were inserted through the 4 gold rings on each end of the ark. The second thing David did wrong was allow Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drive the new cart. David's error was failing to consult God on how to properly transport the Ark of God. The lesson for us is that we should never presume to know what God's will is. Either He has revealed it to us or He hasn't. When it comes to the Lord's will, guesswork is no work, and usually ends up in failure. Verse 4 says, with the Ark of God on it, and Ahio was walking in front of it. Once this procession reached the house of Abinadab, the Ark of God was brought out of the house with Ahio was walking in front of the ark, guiding the oxen that pulled it. Verse 5 says, David and all Israel were celebrating with all their might before the Lord, with castanets, harps, lyres, timbrels, sistrums and cymbals. David and others with him played musical instruments to express their joy on this occasion. They were all excited and rejoicing to see the ark removed from obscurity in the house of Abinadab, and moved to a public place. The problem was that none of it pleased God because it was all in disobedience to His word. The harp, also called a lyre, was a stringed instrument. There were tambourines, wind instruments, cymbals which made a loud distinctive noise when banged together. The atmosphere was joyful, exciting, and engaging. Verses 6 to 13 are not part of our printed text, but they reveal what happened because David failed to consult God on how the ark should be moved. As they traveled to Jerusalem, the oxen stumbled, causing the cart to shake. Uzzah, who was walking alongside the cart undoubtedly with good intentions, grabbed it to keep it from falling over. Since God had declared that only the Levites could touch the ark, he became angry with Uzzah and killed him right on the spot. This caused David to be displeased because the Lord had brought his anger against David, who probably felt didn't deserve it. David was so afraid of the Lord that he was not going to take the ark of the Lord into Jerusalem, until he knew exactly how it should be done. As a result, David had the ark taken into the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, where it remained for 3 months, and the Lord blessed his entire household. When David heard that the Lord was blessing the house of Obed-Edom because he housed the ark of God, David was determined to bring the ark into Jerusalem, but this time he would be successful because he would do it the right way. The second part of our text continues with 2 Samuel 6:14. Verse 14 says, "Wearing a linen ephod, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might." David danced and leaped for joy before the Lord, with all his might. His dancing was a natural expression of his great exultation. David knew God was watching, and after disappointing the Lord earlier, now he wanted to do all he could to please him. On this occasion David laid aside his kingly purple attire, and put on a plain, linen ephod. It was light and convenient for dancing, and was also used in religious service by those who were not priests. Verse 15 says, "While he and all Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts and the sound of trumpets." David and all of Israel were shouting with joy along with the sound of the trumpet. This indicated that the only instrument that could be heard was the trumpet, which was often associated with priests and with the presence of the Lord. This seems to be more evidence that when David put on the linen ephod, he was taking the role of a priest more than a king. Verse 16 says, "As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window. And when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart." Not everyone rejoiced with King David at the return of the ark. David's wife Michal didn't appreciate David's exuberant worship. We are told that as the ark of the Lord came into the city, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window, and she despised him in her heart. We are not told why Michal was disgusted with David. She felt it wasn't dignified for the king of Israel to express his emotions before God. And in 2 Samuel 6:20 she accused David of being undignified by dancing in front of all the women who were his servants. Verse 17 says, "They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent that David had pitched for it, and David sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before the Lord." As the celebration continued, the priests and Levites sanctified themselves and brought the ark of God on their shoulders with the staves, just as Moses commanded according to the word of the Lord. David set up this tent for only one purpose, housing the ark of the Lord. Then David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. This symbolized the people's complete surrender, consecration, and fellowship between God and his people. Again, since David was the one offering these sacrifices, this is further evidence that when he put on the linen ephod, he was taking on the role of priest. Verse 18 says, "After he had finished sacrificing the burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord Almighty." Once David finished the offering, he prayed to God asking him to bless his people, and especially to reward them for the honor and respect they had now shown to his ark. Of course, this would assure them that the blessing of God would be upon their homes and the works of their hands. This blessing testified to the fact that David cared for their welfare, and let them know that they had a king who loved them. Our final verse says, "Then he gave a loaf of bread, a cake of dates and a cake of raisins to each person in the whole crowd of Israelites, both men and women. And all the people went to their homes." David also provided a meal of gratitude for everyone present. This was not just a snack. It was a full meal. It included bread, a good piece of flesh, and wine. Once the people received their food, David dismissed them and all departed to his house. As a demonstration of his joy and gratitude to God, David fed the people. His generosity would encourage the people to freely join him again if he had the need to call them together. Praise and dance. David had a love for the things of God. He knew how important the Ark of the Covenant was to Israel, and it became his desire to retrieve it, and bring it to Jerusalem and placed it in the tabernacle he had built. As a result, all the people praised the God of Israel with musical instruments as well as dancing. The lesson is twofold. God deserves to be praised because he is God, and we should always take the things of God seriously and with reverence. Praise and dance. 1. Believers will freely follow those who follow God, 2 Samuel 6 1-2. David gathered his best soldiers because bringing the ark to Jerusalem was an important step towards providing a central place of worship for all of Israel. 2. Be careful, we can do what we think is right in the wrong way, 2 Samuel 6 6-11. We are often tempted to judge a worship experience by how it makes us feel. But when we realize that worship is about pleasing God, we are guided by His Word, so we can know how He wants to be worshipped. 3. When we do things God's way, we can be assured of a successful and joyful result, 2 Samuel 6 14-15. We should perform all our religious services with the desire to do them in the best manner and with all our might. 4. Even when we are doing the right and the wise thing, even our family members may oppose us, 2 Samuel 6:16. No doubt, there are particularly nice people who will censure us if we live wholly to His praise, and call us eccentric, obstinate, absurd, and I don't know what else. From the window of their superiority they look down upon us. 5. God always deserves worship, but especially when He has blessed our efforts to please Him, 2 Samuel 6:17. We don't think that dancing is strange when players win a game or when our own child scores medal. We should not think them strange in worship to God. 6. True spiritual leaders will consistently pray for their followers and show their appreciation for them, 2 Samuel 6:18-19. When our hearts are filled with cheerfulness and joy, our hands ought to be open freely, giving. We are truly glad you spent time to learn this lesson with us. We hope you are blessed and may share these with somebody else. Thank you very much, have a great week, and God bless you always, dear brothers and sisters.